Hello and welcome to another show of In Our Community. My guests today are again Rick and DiAnn Beatty, who we met in a previous episode of In Our Community, who shared the story of their family and the tragic loss of their daughter Alessandra. Today we're going to spend time talking to DiAnn and Rick about the foundation and also about another group that they started, the advocacy group. We're going to find out exactly what they've been able to accomplish up to this point, what they would like to continue to accomplish, and what they would like to see happen with the whole idea of what happened to Alessandra, changing other people's lives so that it may not ever happen again. So I want to welcome you both again. Thank you very much for joining me. Let's start off, DiAnn and Rick, with a little bit about the foundation and the advocacy group. What came first?
Well, the foundation came first, Wayne. And that's really, the whole concept, until we knew how 501c3s and 501c4s operated, we didn't know exactly if we're going to need one or two organizations. Initially, we thought it was just one, the Alessandra Foundation. So we wanted to advocate for education, which we do through the foundation. We also wanted to affect the laws around domestic violence and domestic violence crimes and how you deal with abusers and how you can help victims. So it all came from the same genesis, if you will. But as we went through, and again, I want to point out the great assistance we got from the San Jose Silicon Valley Chamber of Commerce, and specifically Matt Mayhood, the CEO at the time, and then Derek Seaver, who was the, policy aide, who really helped us determine what we needed as a 501c3 and a 501c4, and then Cindy Chavez with the County Board of Supervisors, and Mayor Sam Liccardo. They were the ones that kind of shoved us in, you need to go do this, check this, call this person, and do that, because as I said in the first episode, I sell rocks for a living, and I didn't know anything about all this stuff. So the foundation really is educational, and basically it's become public speaking, where DiAnn and I will go to different groups, talk about domestic violence. We'll work with, we worked with Chief Eddie Garcia when he was Chief of Police in San Jose, on public service announcements, just public testimony whenever he wanted us to go somewhere. We've done two different presentations for Kaiser Permanente medical personnel to talk about domestic violence and the effects on families. And it really kind of centered around, don't you remember when a couple years ago when the San Jose Police came out with a couple of PSAs about domestic violence, and they were controversial because it made people uncomfortable. And Chief Garcia said to the people, he says, why don't you call Rick and DiAnn Beatty and see what they think about that? So we did interviews with Channel 7 and NBC Bay Area on that. Early on, we did actually very, very early on, we did an interview with Asna Smith with KTVU Fox 2. But the ones around the PSAs, that came because people were uncomfortable talking about domestic violence. So when we did these interviews, I said to all the interviewers, both of us said, well, gee, we're sorry that you're uncomfortable talking about this. Imagine how uncomfortable we are having lost our daughter, and how uncomfortable our kids and Alessandra's friends are. You can stand to hear about this because it may save your friend's life. It's something that needs to be talked about. That's what the foundation is all about. It's prevention is our priority. It's seeking to shine the light on the dark places. The darkness can't stand the light, but the darkness can't put out the light, but the light can get rid of the darkness. So we're just trying to be a light that shines in that dark place to just drive that out. So it's been changing time over time. And you know, when we go out and speak like to Kaiser, I'll speak a little bit. But one thing I've always learned, I've said this many times, I choose to speak first because I don't like to follow DiAnn because she has her own story from domestic violence, and she's got the heart, which is when you know, people ask me, gee, what do you think Alessandra would have been like when she grew up? I said, look at her mom. She wanted to be like her mommy. That's exactly what she would have been like. Same heart.
Wow.
Same
So,
person, like to serve people.
yeah. So on that note, DiAnn, the foundation itself, do you have a list of action items like 1 through 5 or 1 through 10? And if you do, can you share some of those with us?
Well, gosh, I don't really have a 1 through 5, but I do. One of the things I wanted to share was that we had been invited to go to Kaiser and Milpitas, and we were asked to do a presentation, which we did. And there were doctors, there were nurses, and there were medical assistants. And so at the end of our time with these wonderful people, a whole bunch, most of them were medical assistants. They came up to me, they just surrounded me, and they were just so, so needy. And so afraid of what maybe a cousin or a sister or another family member was going through, and they were just crying and crying, and they needed, you know, some exaltation, and they needed some tips on what to do, you know, how to get through this. And it was very, very touching, very, very, very touching. And we just have many, many stories. And I, to this day, get phone calls. Like they'll look at the Alessandra Foundation online, and they'll call, and then they'll be, you know, telling me their story. The very first time that it was pretty fresh, the foundation, and Rick and I were at Chico, and we'd gone to this, it was a, you know, just a
We went to a business conference.
Yeah. So anyway, this was the first call I got from a victim. And we were having breakfast in this place, and I get this call. It was my niece who had a friend who was in major trouble, and she asked me if I would call this woman.
She was in Connecticut.
And yeah, in Connecticut. And it was such an interesting experience for me because I just was really bold. I said, you know what you need to do? You need to get out. You need to get your kids. You need to pull any money that you can from any of the bank account, anything. You're going to need this money. And, you know, pack your bags as best you can, put the kids in, and go. And she went to another state. I mean, he did not know where she was. And she started over. And I remember, though, telling her, and I couldn't believe I said it. It was like, any and all funds that you have, you need to pull it right now. And she did. She did. And she got, you know, she just left. She started a new life. And that was just a very interesting experience. And, you know, through the years, I get these calls, and it's been very, you know, it's been an honor to speak with them. And, you know, I listen, and it's amazing. And sometimes, you know, you're just so shook up that you don't even know what to think. But people like me can help.
Yeah.
And so it's always a privilege. It's always a privilege. And
One of the things I wanted to touch base with you on is you mentioned the fact that you and Rick had been to a couple of hospitals and talked to a lot of different staff there. Now, I know for a fact that there have been probably hundreds, if not thousands, of people across the United States that have been admitted to the emergency room with which look like they've been beaten up in a bar fight. And it's basically domestic violence. But for the victim to share that is sometimes impossible and sometimes non-existent. Have you, in your talking to the hospitals, discussed this in any length? And if so, what was the conversation like?
Okay. Well, the Kaiser in San Jose was, as I understand it, they were the first to put out these kind of 5x7 little poster things that they had, especially in gynecology, in every single office, in the hallways, and it talked about, you know, is someone hurting you? You know, all of these things. And here's a number to call, and this is what you can do. And I was really glad that Kaiser did this. And I know that they do it in other areas as well.
Yeah, they're starting to do it everywhere now.
But yeah, that was a big deal. It was a really big deal to have those conversations. And, you know, and like while you're waiting in a medical room, you know, and you look around before the doctor comes in, and you see this, you know, poster sort of thing with all this information. It's really good. It's really, really good. And they're always at the ready to give this information to the patient so that they can do something.
Two things I wanted to also touch base on between the two of you, I'm sure you have some answers to these questions, is number one, what has been your experience at trying to recognize the lack of the individual who is being abused for actually attempting to get out of the relationship? There's obviously some sort of psychological barrier there, and obviously a manipulation on the part of the perpetrator. But have you had any conversations with any psychiatrists, psychologists about what can happen to get some of these individuals to recognize it's in their best interest to get out?
Exactly. And I've counseled women on this whole issue many times, sitting at this dining room table on the phone with them. And, you know, they are scared, they are overwhelmed. And in most of these cases, they're not the ones that have the money. Their boyfriend or their husband has it, and they might not have access to the money. And, oh, it's just very difficult, very difficult. But, you know, thank God for like the YWCA and other
Next door solutions.
Next door solutions, and other, because they have them in several places. And I just say, you just get your stuff, get your bag, and leave and go. And they will give you, like the YWCA, they'll give you some counseling. They'll give you
A room.
Yeah, maybe an apartment. It just all depends. And
That's what I wanted to touch base on, are safe houses, because obviously when an individual decides they're going to leave, their fear is they're going to be tracked down, and that perpetrator is going to find them and cause them great harm, if not totally just take them away from this earth. So do you, in your efforts, besides the YMCA, et cetera, do you pass on, do you have a list of the safe houses that are available for these individuals to at least contact and possibly get help through?
Well, I think we don't know where the safe houses are, thank God, but we know who to point them toward. So, you know, people like Next Door Solutions to Domestic Violence, the YWCA, A Safe Place up in the Oakland area, Community Solutions in South County. I think, DiAnn is more qualified to talk about this subject from a victim standpoint and just her story, which kind of leads into Alessandra's story, because I'll let DiAnn tell you where she came from in her first marriage.
Yeah, why don't we do that? DiAnn, go ahead.
So I had both Aaron and Alessandra. Alessandra was a toddler and Aaron was, I think, 4, almost to be 5. And their father as the years went by, he just got worse. He was mean. He was totally controlling. When I was pregnant with Alessandra, I remember him, battering me, and I was in my nightgown and my robe, and the kids were asleep. They were so young. It was late at night, like 11 o'clock, and I ran out of the house in my robe and slippers and got in the car and took off because I was just scared to death, and it was pretty brutal. And I remember that was like so many years, 27 years ago or more. Yeah, 30 years ago. Mm-hmm. And back in the day, they didn't, gas stations didn't have, bathrooms for people, like where you go and ask for a key back then. At least this was in Fremont. And I remember, and I'm out to here. I'm, ready to deliver at any time. I had to pee so bad. It was just terrible. And finally, I just went home, went into the house, sat down in the toilet and peed. And then my bag broke. The water broke. And so off to the hospital we were, and it was just so strange. But, Alessandra did really well through it. She came, she was my second, and she just was ready to come out. And I remember that they were really, really busy at Hayward Kaiser. And there were so many gurneys lined up to deliver. And I'm sitting here going, I can feel Alessandra making her move, what's going on here. But anyway, they wheeled me in to a room, and they didn't even have the bed all set up. It's just ridiculous. But anyway, she just started crowning, and I'm like, hey, help, put something here that I can hold on to. And if she comes out, there's nobody in front of me to grab her. It was just so bizarre. And but she came out, and she was fine, and they bathed her, and and then we just.
But that's how her life started.
Acted like. I
mean, that's the DiAnn trying to separate the joy of that from what happened before. Her qualification on this is above anybody that I know, and she is the strongest, most courageous person I know for what she's been through in her life personally, and then to lose her daughter like this, which is why I would really prefer her to talk about issues like that, because she has the experience. She has the ability and the heart to speak to young women or older women who are going through that, because she's been through it. She's been through it. She was in a shelter with Aaron and Alessandra. And when you look at her, you go, well, she doesn't look like she had any problems. And she doesn't, but she's lived a life. And I think that the love that she has shown her children, and all 5 children, not just Aaron and Alessandra, and me and our entire family, that's what Alessandra clung to and wanted to be like that. She wanted to exhibit grace. She wanted to exhibit mercy. She wanted to be kind. And she was very humble. And DiAnn's very humble. You know, when you hear her talk, you know, many people freak out when they hear her story. She doesn't freak out. She's free from it. I mean, that's the power of Christ right there. You know, and what he has brought her through and us through, and where he has placed us to do what he put us on this earth to do. We didn't want to do this. I'd rather be curled up in a ball in the corner. That's what I feel like doing. But I'm not doing it because this is what I've been asked to do. You know, and this is not about me. It's not about DiAnn. It's about the other Alessandras out there. It's about the other Ariana May Hatamis out there. It's about the other Katrina Esparza. It's about all those other people, that how can we not have other families go through what we're going through. That's why we're doing this. Mm-hmm. That's the call. The how comes as it comes. The how comes by circumstance. When the doors open, we go in. This is not something that we like to do. When we talk to Eric and then Marc about this isn't something we like to do. But it's something we must do.
And at that point, I'd like to move on. We've got a few minutes left here, and I really want to touch base on your idea that the advocacy group is the next most powerful thing that you're going to be able to change. And that's, I'd like to spend some time. Why don't you talk about that?
So the main thing we're trying to do is, we call it an offender search engine. It's not the big pushback by the ACLU and some other groups is that it's a registry and it invades privacy. This is already publicly available information. If you're convicted of any crime, it's in the FBI database. And each state determines who can look at it and how they can look at it. In California, there are currently 25 different agencies. You know, the Humane Society is one of them. If you abuse an animal, you can look at it. If you abuse a human, you can't look at it. But if you abuse an animal, you can. You know, the police, different agencies can look at it, but there's 25 in the statute. We just want to add one more, which is a non-government organization or a foundation like the foundation, to operate an offender search engine that specifically dials into domestic violence related crimes. And I can't remember the number. There's different, at one point, I think there was 35 different crimes. If you commit, that checks the box, your name gets put in it, and you don't have to register for it or anything. This search engine will just dive in. So if we wanted to go type in somebody's name and say, show me Fred Jones, if he's dating my daughter, does he have any domestic violence convictions, not arrests, convictions? And it would pop up and say yes, and where did it happen, and no intimate details, but just, yeah, he was a person. That's all we're looking for. And, you know, it's an uphill battle in any, because you get different people pulling in different ways, but it's a common sense thing. It's about personal safety, protective safety for people, so they don't become victims, so they don't get into this system, so they don't get into the welfare system. As DiAnn said, the reason many women stay in these relationships is because of money. They have no way to support themselves. It's not their fault, but that's the circumstance. So, you know, and believe me, like Cindy Chavez and a lot of these people are working on different legislation to solve that piece, to where, you know, one of the ideas, and I can't remember who was doing it, was to kick the abuser out of the house instead of the wife. But, you know, I don't know how to do that, you know, but that's not our lane. We're going to stay in our lane. Our lane is protection and prevention. And And so we want to get this legislation done. And we've supported other people with legislation they're doing. So we're working with State Senator Susan Rubio, State Senator Ana Caballero, and hopefully our new senator, Dave Cortese from San Jose, to get this. We're working with the lobbyist, Houston and Magnani up in Sacramento, that's helping us. Chief Eddie Garcia is helping us. Mayor Liccardo is helping us. Cindy Chavez is helping us. A lot of people locally are helping us. So that's the push we're on now. And you know, we had a shot last year and then COVID broke out, but now we've restarted the process. So that's where we are now. And we're charged up and reinvigorated for that. So that's really where we're pointed, and then continue to do the Kaiser and the, you know, go testify and talk to medical groups and everything we can. So
yeah,
we're not stopping.
Yeah, that's a remarkable story. We're kind of down to our last minute or so, and I just again want to thank both of you. What an unbelievable journey you both have been on. As you said, you were put on this earth to do something you never thought you'd have to do, and here you are in the midst of doing it. And you, the two of you, are going to affect so many people's lives in the long run. Hearing your efforts so far are just mind-blowing. So I want to, again, thank you and honor you for both being here again to share this story. I know it's very uncomfortable to share, but it really makes a difference. And hopefully it's going to make a difference for thousands of other people that are able to hear this story and share in your unfortunate journey. So again, blessings to both of you, and thank you so much.
And to you too. You guys are wonderful. Thank
Appreciate
you
it.
so much.
Thank you. And thank you to our audience again for joining us for this incredible sharing of the family's unfortunate experience of suffering a loss due to a death that could have easily been prevented. But the adventure continues as they make a difference in a lot of people's lives. So thank you again and have a wonderful day.